Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be going through a chess game I played as black against somebody named Razor Optics. In this game I found a Grandmaster tactic that I just wanted to share with you guys. So let's get right into it. The first few moves were by the book, so we'll just go through those. The first thing I want to share is after they did this move, I'm pretty used to getting that threat here. So what did I do? I prevented it by pushing this pawn. What did they do? They responded with their own pawn push, but they pushed it 2 squares. Notice how, since they pushed it 2 squares, they don't take away this square. So what happened? I brought out my knight. They brought out theirs. Next move, I brought out my bishop. And now I have this. The same thing they were threatening. And because they pushed a pawn 2 squares, I had that. Now they pushed this pawn, which is good. They put pressure here. So what did I do? I brought my knight there, got it ready. They just ignored that. They castled right into this. The problem is, like, after I do this, if we trade pawns, my rook is just gonna dominate that file. It's gonna lead to checkmate. So what happened? I brought my pawn out. They took. I didn't want to take right away because if I took right away, their knight protects that square, and of course I would have taken with their bishop attacking my queen. I could block with my bishop, but that's so close. That position is way too close for my liking. So I did not want to do that. So instead, what did I do? I pushed this pawn so my queen has an escape square first. Now, instead of taking, which they should have done, because if they took whatever I took with, they would have just taken back. And they would have gotten rid of one of these 2 attacking pieces of mine, but they didn't do that. What did they do instead? They pushed their B pawn. They're just pushing all their pawns to light squares for now. I guess maybe they want to position their bishop here to attack this diagonal if I castle later. But I can't castle right now. Instead, I took this pawn because now if they take it, which they did, I have an escape square for my queen, which I used. I used that escape square. Now they brought their knight here. But notice how it's just not threatening anything. Notice how this pawn is protected, this pawn is protected, and this pawn is protected. They're just not really threatening anything. So I ignored that threat. I brought my knight over just to remove this defender. If I remove that defender, I'll be dominating. So what happened? They attacked my knight. They created a weakness here, sort of, that I might exploit later. Just 3 pawns on the same rank here. That's pretty weak. So what did I do? And I say sort of because this pawn's protected. But the other 2, and this pawn's protected. And this pawn's protected for now. So that's why it's sort of a weakness. But later, it'll be a weakness. So what did I do? I just removed the defender. I took the knight. They take with the pawn. They had a chance to stop all this. They had a chance to take with the queen. And pretty much everything would have been dead. This would have been dead, and I would have had to somehow bring my queen over here, and just try to maul down this file, which would have been more difficult. But they didn't take with the queen. They take with the pawn, which is a blunder. And now I spotted my Grandmaster level tactic. So what was that tactic? Bishop takes pawn. At this point, they had 2 moves. They either had king g2, which leads directly to 1-move checkmate, or, and this is the move they played, rook takes bishop. Then I take the rook with the knight. No, I don't take the rook with the knight. I deflect the king away from guarding the rook, and now they had 2 moves. Either this, in which case I take the queen, I take the rook, and they take my knight. Or, and this is what happened, this is what actually ended up happening, they take my king, now their king is, or they take my rook with their king, they didn't take my king, that's not allowed in chess, and now, I take the rook with this nasty king-queen fork, and I spotted this tactic from a mile away. They moved their king up, they can move their king anywhere, it doesn't matter. I don't know why they decided to not attack my knight, that's pretty passive, having that king in the corner there. So they take my knight, and now I bring my queen out with check. They only have 1 move, king g1, and so I checked them again. King f1 now. Now I run my bishop out. I didn't want to take their bishop too fast. I wanted to take it with check later. So now their only move, king e2. Now I checked them again, and at this point I just kept checking them. Now they brought their king over to e1, hoping maybe to escape. The problem is my pawn here for now. So I took their bishop with check. Now I took it with check because when they moved their king, now I castle. The idea is to bring my rook out, and yes, they take my pawn here with check. But do I care? No. There's, again, no real threat here. When they move their knight over there, there's just no real threat. So I moved my king, they brought their knight back, and I brought my rook out. I could have brought it to the H rank, doesn't matter. I brought it to the G rank, the G file, rather. Ranks are the rows, files, or columns. Anyways, what did they do? They moved the rook here. They played this move with like 5 seconds left. And I had like 5 minutes left, so they were really low on time. So what did I do? I had a chance to just mate them right there. I missed that. I said I saw that rook blunder. I saw that it was hanging, so I just played check. What did they do? They brought their king back to e3. And I just took the rook. And now what did they do? They started pushing pawns to create space for their king, and the rest of this game is just a pawn pushing game for them. So what did I do? I brought my queen here because the queen takes away this square, and it takes away all of these squares. And I didn't want my king to be able to, their king to be able to escape. So I wanted to create like this mate thing where they just can't escape anywhere. Here. And so what happened? They took my pawn. Now I didn't want to just take all my pawns. So I took their pawn back first, and then what? Then they brought their bishop here. They brought their bishop back. So now I brought my rook. The idea is to pin it and then take. What did they do? They moved their king to the side. What did I do? I pinned their bishop anyways. They took. And now I took. I didn't need that bishop at all. And now it's just the rest is just me giving checks and trying to mate them. I cut their king off. Wanted to create another mating net. Brought my queen over. Attacked their knight. And the minute they moved it, I spotted this tactic. Queen here. Queen f1. And then queen b5 with checkmate. The problem is the knight. I would have to remove that later. Or would I? I brought my queen over. And what did they do? They moved the knight. They moved the knight to c2. The thing is, I didn't want to play this and play right into their fork. It's still winning for me because I still have checks. I still have this check. They moved back, and then I moved my rook. So it would have been fine, but I didn't want to play into that. So I attacked their knight first. They brought their knight here now, so that they have this square to move to. What did I do? I took the pawn first. I wanted to create another mating net, this time here, to cut their king off later. They pushed this pawn, threatening to take. Do I care? No. That's not a threat, so I just bring my queen over. They do take, and then I check them. They move there, and now what do? I attack their knight, because the minute they move it, their king just opens up. So they moved it. With check, I just took it. Just to eliminate it. Now what do? They bring their king back. And now, I played rook e3. Doesn't matter where you move your rook in this case. I moved it there just to attack those pawns that I won't take later. And what did they do? Probably the worst move if they want stalemate. Because the minute I take, which I did, there's no hope of stalemate. I just bring my queen down and checkmate them. A better move, probably, and this is the computer, a better move would have probably been something like this. Sack this pawn, and then try to like sack this pawn, and then get stalemate. But they did not do that. So they sacked that pawn. I took it, and this is just going to lead to checkmate here. They pushed their other pawn. I brought my queen down to c3, check them. And now at this point, it doesn't matter. They brought their king here. I could have done this and checkmated them like that. But that's not what I did. I wanted to play it safe to get my pieces further away from the king. So I checked them with the rook first. This time they moved here. It's their only move. And I checkmated them like this. Ladder mate. So there you have it. That's my Grandmaster level game. My Grandmaster level tactic that I spotted that they had chances to stop but just missed. I want to go and look at it one more time. Just before we sign off here, I want to look at it one more time. It was before I castled. There it is. I take the knight. The minute they take with my pawn, again, they could have just easily taken with the queen. And this whole thing, there would have been an extra protector. This would have been dead. Their queen wouldn't have been on this square, so that say I take, they take, and I do this, I just lose my rook. I don't get the queen or anything, I just lose my rook. I can take theirs, they take my knight, but now I'm down rook, two bishops, knight, and queen versus queen and passive bishop and rook. Last time I at least had their queen and they had these other pieces, basically in the same position. But because they completely missed that, I missed that as well, but because they missed that, because they took with their pawn, and their queen was in the spot I needed it to be, I spotted this tactic where I take the pawn, they take, again, if they moved up, would have been mate. So they move here. Either way, they're losing the queen. But they take, and I have this beautiful fork. I take their rook, and I fork their king and queen. Nasty fork. So I take it, and then they take, and the rest just leads to checkmate. So there you all have it. My Grandmaster level chess game. Thank you for watching. See you all next time.